Hey, the internet, y'all got us all the way up. We met that dude Duke the Jeweler the night before. We was down. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to kill him.
He's the one that's tied to the dude that makes the loaded dice. Right? Check the play out. All entertainers, when you go to Houston, stay away from Jay Prince Jr. The whole thing going on. Here go the play right here.
The sound of dice hitting velvet wasn't just a game. It was a warning. Blood-stained cubes rolled across that table like a curse, and though laughter filled the room, everyone knew only one man was walking out alive. Duke the Jeweler didn't leave this world broke. He left iced out, drowning in diamonds, but trapped in a circle of wolves. Now whispers point straight at mob tie, while the feds circle tighter every day. This wasn't some random back alley robbery. Duke was executed, his last breath taken right after Boosie's dice game, surrounded by people smiling 1 second and flashing secret signals the next. Those same faces are sweating heavy now with federal heat on their necks. And 50 Cent? His out here stirring the pot, dropping cryptic receipts, and hinting at a setup way bigger than anybody saw coming. And the timing? Straight out of a movie. Just weeks before Takeoff's life ended in a hauntingly similar dice game hit, Duke was the one shutting down the table at Jay Prince Jr.'s own dice game. When the wrong man racks up too many wins, the room changes, the air turns heavy, and paranoia starts moving faster than the dice themselves. Lil Cam, the crew, all of them were there. What started as whispers in the street is now being shouted like war talk. But to really get this, you gotta rewind, because what looked like a simple game of chance might have been rigged from the start. From the outside, Duke was living the blueprint dream. A Chicago hustler turned self-made king, he built his empire from dust, no favors, no shortcuts. He wasn't just another jeweler slinging chains to SoundCloud rappers. Duke was crafting exclusive masterpieces for legit stars, building a real name in the game. Houston wasn't about clout chasing, it was business, it was money. Boosie had personally reached out, commissioning a one-of-a-kind piece. So Duke packed that Louis duffel stuff with $1 million worth of shine and pulled up, thinking it was nothing but love. But what he didn't realize, that trip wasn't a business move. It was his last ride. Now zoom in on that dice game, because according to leaked audio tied to WAC 100, this was no casual roll of chance. Word on the street is Jay Prince Jr. oversees what insiders are now calling a loaded dice ring. That means every shake, every throw, every win could already be decided before the cubes even hit the table. And if Duke got too hot, too lucky, too loud, that's when the smiles disappear and the setup becomes deadly. And here's the part that'll make your skin crawl. At that table, it's always the same 3 names running the show: Lil Cam, Big Capri, and Wolf. They rotate the dice like it's some kind of sacred ritual, a silent language only they understand. And in every crooked hustle, the house always wins, unless someone slips.
He introduces the dice game. He got 3 mothers, right, who rotate the dice. Now these dice is loaded. Tell me it's a Wolf, Big Caprice, and watch this, and Little Cam are the loaded dice rotate, right?
Well, that night, somebody slipped. Word is, Duke ended up with the wrong pair of dice, the ones never meant for his hands. And those dice? They were loaded. The second Duke touched them, the game flipped. He started hitting hundreds, then thousands, then stacking tens of thousands like lightning. The room's whole energy shifted instantly, because when somebody cracks a rigged system wide open, the architects of that system don't just sweat, they panic. And suddenly, Duke wasn't just another player at the table. He was a problem, one they couldn't ignore. Now let's talk money, because this wasn't about pride, this was about pockets. Insiders whisper that Jay Prince Jr. allegedly clears 30% off every single dice night. That's his slice, every time. So when Duke started raking in stacks like water, it wasn't just bad luck. It was a direct hit to the cash flow. And to make things even worse, Duke wasn't humble about it. He was loud, cocky, dripping in diamonds, throwing money like confetti, and recording every second for the gram. And that's where things turned from suspicious to straight-up haunting. The whole vibe that night shifted.
Some dude tried to rob him. Some dudes tried to rob him. Some dudes had tried to rob me and walked off by himself. I had just met dude yesterday. Try to rob dude must ain't get up.
Folks with flight Zach, we're number 2 for departure, flight into this expanded campus.
Just met.
From fun to fatal. Smiles started looking fake. Eyes darted around the room. The flex, the camera, the winnings, it all set the stage for something dark awaiting just beyond that dice table. If you freeze frame that dice game footage and really study the details, the cracks start showing. Boosie lets out this soft little whistle. Nothing loud, nothing obvious. But right after, his nephew snaps his head and locks eyes dead on Duke. Then a man in a red hoodie lightly taps the nephew's arm, like a silent signal passing through the room. From that second on, the air shifted. Duke went from laughing and tossing dice to sitting in a tension-filled countdown towards something no one could escape. And minutes later, Duke was gone. Dead. That's not paranoia. That's body language. When you walk into a room where people already know how your night is going to end, you can feel it in your chest. So ask yourself this. Why would a millionaire like Boosie bring a guest rocking $1 million in jewelry into a dice game full of questionable faces with zero real security? Why didn't J. Prince Jr., who supposedly runs a whole spot, make sure there was real protection for an out-of-towner carrying that much shine? Now rewind to the exact moment Duke left that table. No bodyguards, no crew, no driver. Just him, walking solo through a dark Houston parking lot after hours of flashing cash and diamonds in everybody's face. If that doesn't sit right with you, it shouldn't, because only minutes later, gunshots ripped through the night. Duke was ambushed, hit, and fatally shot. But here's the part that flips everything upside down. Nothing was taken. Not the cash. Not the ice. Nothing. Think about that. What kind of robbery leaves behind 7 figures worth of jewelry? Duke's body was still iced out in the same $1 million pieces he wore to Boosie's concert hours earlier. And then comes a knockout punch. That Louis Vuitton bag Duke carried everywhere, the one stuffed with unreleased, one-of-a-kind designs, didn't just disappear into the night. No, it turned up inside Boosie's house. Let that sink in. Houston PD even confirmed it. Whether Duke handed it off during the dice game or Boosie had it after, that's a piece nobody's willing to explain. But one thing's crystal clear. The bag made it back to Boosie. Duke didn't. And Boosie's reaction? A shaky Instagram live from a plane, nervously claiming he barely knew Duke and insisting Duke just walked off. But wait a second. Didn't Boosie say Duke was supposed to design him a custom chain? How do you barely know the same man you invited to a private dice game, sat next to while he flashed over $1 million in jewelry, then let walk out alone into the night? That math just ain't mathing. And the more Boosie talked, the worse it looked. He didn't sound like an innocent man clearing his name. He looked pale, uneasy, and
Fight to me. Act like you cover for him, hanging out, everything is cool. Let's go here, let's go there.
worried, like someone holding back way more than he was saying. And that's when things really shifted. The feds, already circling Boosie over his other legal smoke, decided Duke's case deserved its own separate investigation. No hiding it, no burying it. Just a laser-focused manhunt for answers, and when the feds lock in, they don't miss. They track Duke's phone. And guess where the last ping came from? Boosie's own recording studio. Unless Duke's iPhone grew legs and walked itself there, somebody from Boosie's circle scooped it. And that's what made the feds double down. They hit Duke's rental car with a forensic sweep, and boom! Fingerprints from Boosie's nephew and cousin were plastered all over it. Suddenly, this wasn't just whispers anymore. It was evidence. And then, the witness stepped forward. A man outside the building smoking said he saw Duke walking alone to his car. At first, everything looked calm. But out of nowhere, Boozer's nephew slid from the shadows like he'd been waiting. Duke, realizing the trap, allegedly swung first, tried to defend himself. But one quick motion, and a shot rang out, cold. Just like that, Duke never stood a chance. And the whispers? They all connected back to the same three names, Lil Cam, Wolf, and Big Capri, the dice masters running that so-called rotation. And here's the kicker. This wasn't even staged as a robbery. Nobody snatched the ice. Nobody grabbed the cash. Duke died with all his jewelry still on. That tells you everything. This wasn't about money. This was about silence, making sure Duke never spoke a word. And instead of hiding the evidence, they held onto the bag like trophies. That's not sloppy, that's arrogance. And one man noticed it all, 50 Cent. He's been dropping hints, reposting whispers, fanning the flames while connecting dots nobody else will say out loud. Because the streets already know, if you're moving through Houston and don't check in with J. Prince Jr. in the mob tie circle, you're playing with fire. But here's the darker twist. What happens when the same people you check in with are the ones setting you up? J. Prince Jr. hosted that dice game. The same setup Duke attended. The same setup where Takeoff was later killed under nearly identical circumstances. And if J. Prince really runs the city like he says, how do two men end up dead at his dice games? Even Whack 100, who usually keeps it quiet on the real street politics, couldn't hold back. He came forward, adding fuel to the blaze, saying way more people know the truth than they're admitting. And once Whack dropped his bomb, the whispers got louder. Because now, it's not just about dice. It's not just about jewelry. It's about whether mob ties is protecting people or lining them up for the slaughter. And if the feds keep pressing, the next chapter in this story might expose everything. The streets are buzzing like never before. Word is there's more footage, more audio, and more people ready to spill exactly what happened that night. Some insiders are already whispering to the feds, trying to save themselves before the hammer comes down. Meanwhile, the internet detectives are in overdrive, breaking down the dice game frame by frame. Slowed footage, background voices, even the shadows on the wall. And the deeper they dig, the worse it looks for that mob tie circle. But here's where it turns downright chilling. Rumors say Duke wasn't the only one side-eyeing that dice game. Another big industry name wanted out too, but someone convinced him to stay. And now that person is laying low, ducking calls, staying silent like they know way too much. Add that to whispers about Lil Cam being caught up in the loaded dice situation, and suddenly this doesn't sound like just a game. It sounds like a setup. Rest in peace, Takeoff, but the same play bit keeps repeating. And you know who's having the time of his life watching this chaos? 50 Cent. He's out here reposting cryptic captions like, it's always the one closest to you, and check who's stirring the pot. Never dropping names, but making it clear he knows what's up. Meanwhile, the feds are moving quiet but deadly. Freezing accounts, pulling phone records, collecting surveillance footage from every angle. They even tapped into private security cams from nearby businesses. And guess what? The footage doesn't line up with Mob Tie's version of events. Behind closed doors, Boozer's camp is unraveling. Associates going ghost, deleting socials, changing numbers, laying low like they already feel the pressure. And anyone who knows how the feds operate understands what that means. Somebody's about to fold. At the same time, J. Prince Jr. is moving different too. The man who used to strut everywhere with his chin high has gone almost invisible. Some say he's hiding. Others say he's working phones nonstop, begging for favors to keep this from exploding. Meanwhile, Duke's family isn't backing down. They've lawyered up with some heavyweight attorneys and they're demanding answers. When family heat collides with federal pressure, cracks turn into collapses real fast. Whack 100 even called the whole thing a scam ring, pointing out that J. Prince Jr. runs the same tie play every time. Invite entertainers, act like the friendly host, get them relaxed, then lead them straight into a dice game surrounded by his people. That's not hospitality. That's entrapment with a smile. Now the industry's reacting. Artists are pulling back. Labels are pulling out. Promoters are canceling Houston events left and right. The city's energy is radioactive, and even 50 Cent can't resist fanning the flames, saying this is bigger than you'll think. Some say it's reckless. Others say it's just bold enough to say what everyone else is scared to admit. And in the middle of all this, Boosie. The feds aren't just poking around anymore. They're digging. His mansions, his accounts, even his son's digital trail. Nothing's off limits. And the most dangerous piece? Word is Boosie's own girlfriend slipped up. She allegedly told someone he ran back inside at night looking shook, like he was hiding something. Yet he keeps acting like he didn't see, didn't know, wasn't involved. But everyone knows Boosie doesn't move solo. If he falls, the question becomes, who's he taking down with him? Because all the names, all the whispers, all the threads, they keep circling back to the same table. And just when it feels like the storm couldn't get wilder, it does. Finesse 2 Tims, the very artist Mob Ties once paraded around, is suddenly switching sides and talking slick. One minute is shouting out J. Prince Jr. in interviews. The next is acting like the man doesn't exist. Something definitely shifted behind closed doors. First came the silence. No more concerts together, no backstage cameos, no random appearances. Then came the whispers, and they all trace back to one messy trigger, a woman. But not just any woman, Finesse's baby mama. Months back, she and her mother allegedly lined him up, called the cops, and had him locked down for probation violation. That betrayal cracked the circle. And just when it looked like Finesse was done, guess who swooped in to save him? J. Prince Sr. himself. The OG made calls, pulled strings, and within 2 weeks, Finesse was back on the streets. But instead of loyalty, he ran straight back to the same woman who set him up. That's when Senior snapped, jumping on Twitter with a warning that felt more like a prophecy. I told the homie to stay away from that woman if he values his life. But he wouldn't listen, even after I got him out. That's straight from Senior's own words. And just when you thought the drama would end there, the plot thickened. Rumors began swirling that J. Prince Jr. might have gotten Finesse's baby mama pregnant behind his back. Is it confirmed? No. But the fact that the streets believe it, and Finesse hasn't denied it, says everything about the energy. Now fans are connecting the dots. Everywhere J. Prince Jr. goes, chaos follows. Beef with Takeoff's family. Whispers about Boosie. Rumors about Finesse's household being wrecked. Even insiders say bridges are burning faster than they can be rebuilt. And that raises the big question, how many betrayals can the Mob Ties empire take before the whole thing collapses? Because when your name is built on fear and silence, all it takes is one person breaking the code to bring the entire structure down. And now the streets are buzzing with deadly curiosity. Who's going to be the first to fold? Will Boosie crack to save his own name before the feds close in? Or will Finesse finally stop hinting and put it all out there? Hovering over everything is 50 Cent, fanning the flames with cryptic posts and captions. He's making sure the Mob Ties scandal doesn't die, no matter how badly they want it buried. Every time Junior tries to fade into the shadows, Fib drags him right back into the spotlight. Meanwhile, the feds are tightening the noose. They are not just investigating Boosie, they're surveilling him around the clock. His mansions, his land, his financial records, every move is being traced. And the pressure isn't stopping with him. J. Prince Jr. is standing right in the crosshairs, with artists, labels, and promoters quietly backing away from Houston altogether. The city itself feels cursed. This isn't just rap beef anymore. This is Rico energy, and the stakes couldn't be higher. And here's the real ticking bomb. Duke's killer might already be caught on camera. If that footage leaks to TMZ, the feds, or anyone willing to pay, it's game over. No more whispers, no more speculation, just cold, brutal truth on full display. One leak could topple the empire overnight. So stay locked in, because this story is far from over. Like, share, and subscribe, because the next chapter is about to get even uglier.